Hello, welcome to this Substance Painter tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to have a look at putting things around a cylindrical object. We're going to use maybe cylindrical mapping and symmetry, but radial symmetry, just to build up a pattern and have it all match up nicely. Okay, so I'm going to start a new project, and I have a water bottle that I created earlier, and that should be okay for that. So let's click OK. Let it load in, and now I'll bake my maps. So into bake mesh maps, I've got 2048 for my output size. My ambient occlusion is at 0.005, and my curvature is at 0.005 as well. I may adjust those as I go, but we shall see. It's a good starting point anyway. Okay, so let's bake those out. So, I mean, one of the things that puzzled me a little bit when I started was trying to figure out how to put like a ring around something, just a perfect ring. So to do that, we use cylindrical mapping. So when we're starting out with this, we're going to just build some shapes into our model. So let me delete this layer, and we're going to create a new fill layer eventually. There we go. But I'm only going to use height on this. So I believe if I press control height, no, is it shift control height? It's be alt height. Yes, alt height. Yeah, I had a 1 in 3 chance and I managed to get them all wrong. So we're only going to use the height channel for this. First of all though, what I want to do is set my projection from a UV projection to a cylindrical, and that's going to pull up this nice kind of projection map, and up here we have some gizmos whereby we can shrink it down and perhaps scale it up. Whoops, we can move it, we can rotate it, so I can move it here in any axis, and I can rotate it as well. We'll get to that, but I've just scaled it down so it's roughly the size of the bottle. It's a bit taller, but not too much. Okay, so we need a pattern to project onto this, and what I want to do is just create some rings, and for that we're going to use, I think, perhaps this brick generator. So I'm going to pop a fill layer underneath, sorry, not that one. I'm going to put a fill layer underneath here, and again I'm going to set my projection mapping to cylindrical. Just do a quick scale down just on the X and the Y there. There we go. And then we'll alt click on height, and now I'll drag and drop my brick generator into there, and there we go. So that's projecting across everything at the moment, but we can control that a little bit later with some masks. But I just want to adjust my brick pattern here. So for bricks X, I want 1. So I just want 1 going around. For bricks Y, I'm going to increase that quite a lot. I'm going to take the bevel down. Oops, not quite that much. There we go. So now I've got some nice strips going all the way around, and that's perfect. As I said, it's going on to more of the bottle than I want it to, but we'll control that with some masks in a moment. Okay, so if I start to increase our numbers here and mess around, we should be able to get some nice effects. So we have a Y gap, so I can increase that. We have the X gap. I realise I'm only on 1, but there's still a gap there. We have some middle sizes, so let's try that one. There we go. So we can alter that to get down to a different pattern. We have some variations which I don't want, some slope values to change, so we can change the balances and even variation if we wanted to. But essentially that's the kind of shape I want, but I only really want it on the bottom of this bottle. So let's add a black mask to this, and for the black mask I'm going to switch over to the mask channel so I can see what's going on, and go into the 2D 3D view. I'll just press F to focus that up, and now I want to just select basically down the bottom of this bottle. So on the black mask I want to make sure my colour is white. I'm going to select the fill here, the fill polygon options, and then we'll do it by polygon. And if I drag up there we go, one more perhaps, come on, just one more, there we go, that should be about right. So let me switch back to material now, and there we've got it. Now this one up here is a little bit awkward, I don't really want that there. So if I go back to the fill layer, you'll see I get my little gizmo back for the projection, and I can grab that, move it to the move gizmo, and then just reposition until I get to where I want. Okay, so another last issue is I'm getting a little bit of a ridge at the end, and I don't really want that. So what we're going to do is add a levels to this. So if I add a levels in and set it to height, you'll see I've got black in the middle here and white over here, and then I've got sort of some negative down here. And if I switch this downwards, it's changing essentially the position that it's going to start to displace from. That's for that one. If you double click on the little number underneath, you can type it in. So I want to gradually move these things around until it gets to where I want it to be. And of course it's not going to work because that would be too easy. Oops, that should be 0.5. Okay, let me try moving the white down. There we go, it's getting there. Actually, if I flip it, no, just gently reduce. There we go. So I've just reduced the 0 level, which is this one here, to 0.52. I expect if I made that minus 0.5 it'd probably be okay. Yes it is. And I've moved the white level to 1. If I move the white level completely upwards, then it's going wrong. So let's pop that to 0, and now I've got a nice smooth transition between our pieces. So that's our first bit of cylindrical mapping. What we'll do in the next one is I'm just going to divide this up because I want a couple of different sort of zones on this to do, and then we'll use the cylindrical for another technique. So I'll talk to you then. Okay, so I should have done this first really, but let's do it now. I just want to split this into 2 zones. So I'm going to create 2 folders, and one will be the lid and one will be the bottle. And this one needs to pop into the bowl, so that's there. And now I can set up these black masks. And for the bottle one, what I'm going to want is the fill island. Just going to switch over to mask so I can make sure it's actually happening as I'm doing it. There we go. So that one, that one, that one, and oops, there'll be another one just there. There we go. The rest of it is for the lid. So rather than selecting all of the other pieces, I can copy this mask and paste it into here, and then right click and invert. Well, let's just add levels and switch the black and the white over. That should do the job. So if I switch this back to the mask view, there we go. Now we've got that up there. Excellent, that's that bit sorted. Okay, so with that done, in the next bit we'll add some more texture to this whole thing. So I'll talk to you then. Okay, so let's add a layer on our lid. So I'm going to select the lid and add a fill to it. There we go. Let's just drag and drop that in there so it's in the layer itself. There we go. So for this one, again, we only want height, so I'm going to press the Alt key and click height. And I'm going to switch my preview over to material. And then in the textures, we're going to look for the tile generator. So I'll just type tile gen, and then we get our tile generator here, and I can drag that, drop that into our height. There we go. It looks crazy to start with. So we'll change our UV projection to cylindrical again. I'm going to leave the projection as it is to start with, and now we can start adjusting. So first of all, I want to change the pattern to, let's take it to a square, which will almost get rid of it completely. But then if I go down to pattern and just take the scale down a teeny bit, actually just in X, there we go, we open up a little gap there. So let's open up to somewhere around half. And now we've got this kind of I don't know, umbrella-y kind of look on the top. I can go to tiling, and then I can increase that to get narrower strips. Okay, so that's all well and good, but I don't want it to be all over this, so let me add a black mask to that, and now I can filter out what I want. So let me switch over to the mask view. There we go, and I only really want it on these side pieces, so I'm going to perhaps do this a little bit more gently than I would normally. I believe that's these here. No, that's the bottom, it must be these here. Okay, right, so I'm going to go to the single select and just start filling these in. I want up to about the third. Whoops. If you overfill, then you can switch to black and remove the ones you've added in error. I'm just carefully trying to do this right the first time. Oh yeah, see, I'm not very careful. I start to rush. Let's pop that back to white, so I can do that. I could do, whoops, not quite that far. There we go. Just get it mostly filled in at least, and then go in and do some of the tighter details. If anyone's got a better way of doing this, please let me know, because I hate it. I could have UV'd it differently, but then I'd have had more islands, so it's always a balance. There we go. Right, so let's pop back to our material, and now I've got a nice kind of textured rim around the top of our lid, which, you know, these things can often have because, well, you know, you like to have something to grip to, you know, spin it off. Right, so let's perhaps add levels to this, and on height, there we go. I'm going to take that down a little bit, perhaps take the height down a little until I'm happy with it. There we go, somewhere around there I think. That's a nice kind of transition. Perhaps a bit more. That's not really helping now. Ah, there we go, spot on. Okay, so that's another usage. I mean, it's essentially the same, but it's with a different, you know, a different pattern. I'm going to, you know, do some slightly different things, hopefully, you know, just to give you a few extra little bits. So I will talk to you in the next. Okay, so next we're going to put a little design around the top of our bottle, and for that we'll go to the bottle layer, and we're going to add a paint layer this time. Just drag and drop that on there. There we go. And again, we're still working in height, So alt click on height, and currently if I paint on this, you know, it's just going to, well, not do very much really, especially as I'm on the wrong tool. Where am I? Sorry, I had a filter on, it was confusing me. Okay, so I can paint on here if I actually give it some height, and you know, we get a design, and that's terrific. But what I want to do is put a design all the way around the top, and I don't have a texture for it, so I need another way of doing it. So for that I'm going to turn on Symmetry, which is this triangle or double triangle thing here, and then I'm going to go to Radial Symmetry, and if I point here you'll see that it kind of looks a bit like that, and it's obviously in the wrong axis at the moment. See this sort of dot in the middle, that's my axis. So let me just undo that, go back to my symmetry options. In Radial Symmetry we'll go to Y, and now it's actually going around the bottle, which is perfect. That's exactly what I want. So I could draw something here, I could stamp something, I could do all sorts of things, but let's get a better brush than this. I wish I had my tablet out. I don't. Let's try this marker. So now I can, you know, draw in. Now it's a bit rough, and it's probably a good time to introduce Lazy Mouse. If you turn Lazy Mouse on, it smooths your stroke very nicely for you, so you get a much, you know, nicer stroke. So I'm going to zoom in a bit and size my brush down. There we go. And now I can do a much nicer or finer design, rather, something along those lines. So let me go up to the top. There we go, and now we've got kind of a little swirly design up the top. You might be better at drawing than I, that's perfect. But yeah, I'm going to try something. I've got to get something nice out of this. Lazy Mouse is not my friend at that point in time. See, I tried to kind of draw a spiral like that, but I tried to do it very small. You see the dark circle, that's my Lazy Mouse setting, and if my initial stroke doesn't go outside that, you'll see it's not actually moving. It's only when I go outside that it actually moves. You can adjust that circle. Let me just undo that by reducing the distance. But the more you reduce the distance, the more, you know, or the rougher your stroke will end up, I guess, depending upon, you know, how good you might be with the mouse. I'm not very good, as you can probably tell. So I'll just increase that distance a bit and get something in there. Another thing to note on the Radial Symmetry is you have a choice of how many points. So I can increase my number of points, say to 8, and then if we click in, whoops, oh, that's terrible. It's getting worse and worse as I go. Okay, let's be more sensible about this. I'm going to use a stamp instead. So let's go to my alphas, and I want some sort of pattern stamp, something vaguely interesting. Just scanning down to see what I can find. Flowers don't seem appropriate. Must be something. There's got to be something in here somewhere, isn't there? No. Okay, we'll go with that then. We'll just increase my brush and just rotate it around a bit. There we go, and I'll just stamp that down. You'll note that I've got a bit of a gap here, and that can often come up with this. If I go back to the options, you'll see my angle span is 300. So I'm going to undo and set that to 360. And then when I stamp in, they'll be properly equidistant. There we go. So that's a bit of radial symmetry. And of course, you know, you can pick much better choices than I here. Perhaps even this boring one here would be nicer. Let's reduce that size down a bit and increase my number to quite a lot, and I want to have, you know, a relatively kind of well, not relatively, an even spacing around there of you know, of my stamp. Okay, so that's about it for kind of the sculpting side of things, or the building of textures, you know, building of shape kind of things. In the next couple of videos we'll add colour and, you know, do our thing to it. So I'll talk to you then. Okay, so what I want to do is actually add a couple of bits of colour into this. So I'm going to start off with some plastic. So I'm going to make the lid, say, a matte plastic. So I'll drag and drop the matte plastic on there, and I'm going to use a slightly shinier plastic for the bottle. So let's pop that on there. There we go. So we should be able to see that, you know, the main bottle is very, very shiny and the lid is quite matte. We don't want these colours, of course. Let's change these out. So lid, I'll go for a darker colour. I'll leave some colour in there. I'm just going to make it black, and I'm not going to take it down to 0 so that it's completely black, because that will spoil. Well, it will not spoil. It's just, it's not PBR safe. You know, 100% black isn't good in PBR. Okay, so let's have a look at our other one. So I don't want this blue. We'll perhaps switch it to a paler blue. Maybe even take some of the sting out of it. There we go. So it's a little bit darker. And there we are. So now I can put dirt over the entirety of this by simply putting a new layer above. So I'm going to add a fill layer, and to that I'm going to add a black mask. To that black mask we'll add a generator, and we will just use the dirt map. There we go. So this dirt map, you know, we can adjust to do anything we want. So we can have it, you know, make everything duller, or make everything, you know, darker or slightly lighter. We just need to adjust our layers here. So I don't want a height, metal, any of those. We'll just stick with colour and roughness to start with. So the roughness I'm going to increase to somewhere around half, which may not have much effect on the top, but it will have quite an effect on the actual body of the bottle. And I'm just going to turn this down to a darker kind of colour. Edge it towards blue a little bit. There we go, and now we've got a slightly tarnished water bottle. Okay, so what do we do next? Well, we could do with some colour in this, really, couldn't we? We could do with some sort of logo or some text. So we'll have a crack at that next. So I'll talk to you then. Okay, so I've got an alpha or a PNG that I've just created, which I hopefully will be able to find very easily. If my thing wakes up, there we go, I've got text.png. I'm going to drag and drop that onto my library and then set it as a texture and import it. I'm just going to import it to the current session because I'm probably not going to use it again. There we go. And somewhere down there, yes, we have our bottle of water label. So what I want to do is add a paint layer over the top of everything, and then I'm going to add a black mask to it. Not a black mask, I don't need a black mask. No, I do need a black mask because actually I've gone the wrong way. I need a fill layer. Now I need a black mask, now I need a paint layer. And what I could do is take this and then project it over the top. In fact, it's not even a paint layer, sorry, it's a fill layer. I'm really having a day of it today, I do apologise. So I'm going to drag and drop that into my fill. There we go, and there we have it, and it's all over the place, which is no good to us. What we want is for this to be a cylindrical map. There we go, and now we can adjust this to go where, you know, where we want it to go. So I'm going to use the scale to start with, and I'm going to scale it down as a whole. There we go. Perhaps I'll scale it just on the X and Y. That's not making a difference, that's fine. You see it's going places I don't want it to go, and that is because I've got my UV wrap set to repeat, and I want that to none. And there it will go just exactly where I want it to go. We can of course make it smaller, bigger. We can just do the height. Just want to make it a little bigger. There we go. And you'll notice that, you know, it's wrapping very nicely around our whole bottle. You know, if we had this as text and we were just trying to project it on with a cube map, or, you know, with the normal UV projection, it really wouldn't work. So, you know, this is a nice way of doing it for this kind of thing on this kind of piece. And now I want to just bring that down, so I want it to be perhaps around the bottom. It's, you know, interacting with our you know, height map here. Let's perhaps take that up so that's in there nicely. And now what we need to do is really give it some colour. So let's go on to the colour or the fill layer, and let's find a material. So we can put a completely different material on this to the rest of our texture. So let's have a look, see what we've got. We could put a silvery colour, that would be quite nice, a bit watery. Let's try that. There we go. Getting a few little things in there in those height maps, but that's just because it's you know, at an angle, so it is reflecting differently. We can add a little height to this, so let's pop some height on it just to make it stand out from the bottle a little. Yeah, silver's not really doing it for me. I think I probably want to go actually just to the matte plastic, and then adjust this up to a sort of lighter blue perhaps. Okay, so I mean that was a bit on cylindrical mapping really. I just wanted to show that, you know, it's easy to do this kind of thing, you know, with the cylindrical symmetry, with you know, projecting with the cylinder map. And you can do it with textures, you can do it with maps, you can do it with all sorts of different things. And I just think it's a really useful technique, you know, especially for a cylindrical thing like this. Okay, so I hope you found that useful, and I will talk to you in another set.